This person walking around in Mexico's extremely secure jail is not an ordinary man, but the world's biggest and most dangerous drug smuggler, El Chapo. Special CCTV cameras are installed in his cell to keep a 24-hour watch on him. His cell has no skylight or window, only a shower area in the corner. Interestingly, despite such security and surveillance, El Chapo walks towards the shower area and is never seen again by the security staff. Half an hour later, when they became suspicious, they entered the cell, but the world's biggest drug smuggler had escaped. How and from where did he escape? Let's take a look at El Chapo's life and his escape and Discover TV's videos. Once again, welcome. El Chapo, whose real name is Joaquín Guzmán, was born in 1957 in a small town called La Tuna in Mexico. He later named himself El Chapo. His drug trading habits were inherited. His father, who was also a small-time drug dealer, kicked El Chapo out of the house at a young age. El Chapo had no means of livelihood, and when he couldn't find any work, he started selling drugs. By the age of just 15, he began growing drugs himself. He would choose secluded areas to grow marijuana. Slowly, his drug trading business grew so much that Mexico's major drug dealers wanted to include him in their gangs. In the 1970s, he joined a drug trafficking gang named El Guero Palma. In this gang, he used to oversee drug smuggling operations. He was so strict in his work that whenever a delivery was late or there was even a minor mistake, he would kill the dealer. In the 1980s, he joined the gang of the most famous drug dealer of that time, Pedro Aviles. This gang was the biggest drug trading gang in Mexico. In this gang too, El Chapo was given the responsibility of logistics and drug shipment. His job was to monitor drugs coming from Colombia to Mexico. But in 1989, the gang leader Aviles was caught by the agencies and the gang disbanded. Taking advantage of the situation, El Chapo formed his own gang, which he named the Sinaloa Cartel. Now, drugs were being transported to America through two routes. Most drugs came through the Caribbean, and the second route was via Mexican borders. American agencies had focused all their efforts on the Caribbean, and many drug dealers and gangs had already been caught. El Chapo took advantage of this and started using different channels to smuggle drugs into the USA. He grew a lot of drugs, focusing mainly on methamphetamine, heroin, ecstasy, cocaine, and marijuana, which gave him more profit. But delivering drugs to the USA wasn't easy, so he used very clever techniques. Initially, he smuggled less smelly drugs like cocaine by hiding them in fire extinguishers, chili pepper cans, or car rims. Methods even drug-sniffing dogs couldn't detect. But the problem was that other drugs couldn't be smuggled this way, so he adopted a method that became his signature: tunnels. Now he was sent to Mexico's most secure jail, El Altiplano maximum security prison, and was kept under strict surveillance. But just a year later, on July 11, 2015, while he was walking in his cell, he was last seen near the shower area at 8:50 p.m. The shower area was the only spot not visible to the camera. About half an hour later, when he was no longer seen on camera, the lockup was opened to inspect the cell. By the time the guards entered, El Chapo was gone. He cleverly enlarged the shower area drain and dug a tunnel that connected to a bigger tunnel below. This tunnel opened 1 kilometer away at a nearby construction site. It was 33 feet deep and 5 feet 7 inches wide, big enough for a person to pass through easily. But this time, his freedom didn't last long. On January 8, 2016, Mexican Marines attacked a safe house in Los Mochis again, and after a fierce encounter, he was captured once more. This time, the American government didn't want to take any risks. So in 2017, the Mexican government handed El Chapo over to the USA, where he is now serving a life sentence in Colorado's Supermax prison. But the truth is, no matter how much security there is, the American government still fears that El Chapo might escape again. We hope you enjoyed this video by Discover TV. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you again in the next amazing video. 400 kilometers above the Earth, where there's no atmosphere or breathable air, the biggest challenge for the ISS is providing astronauts with fresh oxygen. An average human needs 15,000 liters, or 22 kilograms of oxygen per day, for 9 astronauts. That's nearly 200 kilograms of oxygen daily. Truly a massive challenge. The ISS keeps several days' worth of oxygen in tanks so that if the system fails, astronauts can survive until the next rocket arrives with a new supply. Today, technology is so advanced that oxygen can be sent from Earth to the ISS in just 6 hours, but only if the rocket launch is successful. This method is good but very costly. A cargo rocket trip to the ISS costs $200 million, or 500 crore rupees. Food and other supplies are sent every few months. but it's nearly impossible to meet the daily 200 kilograms oxygen demand with rockets. That's why the ISS makes its own oxygen. A small machine on board uses water to produce oxygen. When electricity is passed through water, it splits into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen bubbles gather at the positive electrode and oxygen bubbles at the negative. On Earth, these bubbles separate naturally because gases are lighter than water, but in space, there's no gravity. Both water and gas weigh the same, practically zero. To separate oxygen gas from water, the machine is spun, creating centrifugal force and artificial gravity. Spinning pushes water to the sides, leaving oxygen in the center, which the machine collects and stores. Now you might wonder, if the ISS makes oxygen from water, where does the water come from? Here too, great engineering comes into play. The hydrogen gas produced in the process is reacted with carbon dioxide exhaled by astronauts to create water again. The final byproduct is methane, which is discarded into space. Making oxygen is a huge challenge for the ISS, but an even bigger challenge is preserving it. A small leak in the ISS could have disastrous consequences. The entire station could explode in a second. A recent example is the Titan submersible disaster. In the ocean, external pressure is high, and when Titan's hull leaked, the ocean pressure crushed it in less than a second. Space is the opposite. Zero pressure outside, and maintain pressure inside the ISS. If a small crack appears, it can depressurize and explode. Just like Titan, the ISS orbits Earth at a height where space debris is abundant, moving at high speeds. This includes satellite parts and hundreds of micrometeoroids. So how does the ISS protect itself from these? The ISS travels at 27,000 kilometers per hour, fast enough to cross the Pacific Ocean in just 25 minutes, whereas commercial planes take 13 hours. At such speed, even a grain-sized meteoroid can hit with the force of a car crashing at 80 kilometers per hour.